All right, yo, what up? Welcome back to Agree to Disagree. And if you're new, welcome to Agree to Disagree. We got my boy J Lloyd, Pops. You already know, just call him Pops. My boy BG, Brian Guadamus. And we got my man Craig Williams. All right. So the first topic, we're just gonna talk about the Hall of Fame validations. So everyone's got their player on who they think should be in the Hall of Fame, and then after everyone kind of gives their take and their reasons for why their players should be in the Hall of Fame, we're going to try to poke holes and basically just make it seem like we're convincing the NBA board on why they should take our player and not everyone else's. All right. So we're going to start with Craig because it's his take. Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, so this is a topic me and John have been talking about for a while because there's a lot of guys you can argue that could be in the Hall of Fame. And one of the guy that I picked wasn't a guy that we really discussed in the past, but I think if you look at the stats, you can argue one way or the other that he could, he should be in the Hall of Fame. The person that I picked was Chris Webber. Chris Webber, I think it's one of those situations too where just off the top, he had a lot of injuries in his career. After doing some research, he had 4 seasons worth of injuries where he didn't play. And, after reviewing the stats, that could have equated to 20,000 points to 10,000 plus rebounds. So just some of the, I think if he's in that, conversation, then he's definitely in the Hall. But I think those years of being injury prone his whole career really affected him being a sure shot Hall of Famer. So it's so many stats that he had that I think were very interesting and unique to his skill set that I'm going to go ahead and just, share those with you guys. So first of all, he has 17,000 career points, 17,182 career points. And that's, he's 20.7 average in points. That's 94th all time. You think 94th, you don't think that's good, but that's more than Grant Hill, Bob Cousy, and Worthy. So that kind of shows you where cats stack up who are in the Hall versus what he did. Rebounds, 8,124, and he averaged 9.8 a game. That's 68th all time. That's more than Worthy, Oscar Robinson, and Bob McAdoo. And again, when you look at he only played 831 games, that's pretty impressive. It just shows you what those extra 4 years would have done for his actual stats. And then also for a big guy, he averaged 3,526 assists. He had 3,526 career assists, 4.2 a game, and that's pretty good for a guy who played his position. Averaged 19, 9, and 4 in the playoffs. And one big nugget that people got to understand: he was the first pick in the 1993 draft, and that's
I
after
didn't even know that.
That's after 2 years at Michigan. The most important stat that I came up with Chris Webber: he was the first sophomore since Magic to be a #1 pick at that time. 15-year NBA career. And he led the Warriors to playoff berth his first 2 years there, and also too he led the Bullets, which were with the Wizards now. He led them to the playoffs. They had made the playoffs in 9 years, so he was pretty impactful. And I know last week we made the argument, when we were talking about the topic last week, was he the best player in his team? You can argue that he was. Golden State maybe not, because he had Spreewell, Chris Mullin. He had some good guys at the tail end of their career, but still. And then Sacramento, he was hesitant to go to Sacramento, which were the best years of his career. But you got cats nowadays that still want to play in Sacramento. Oh, just a little bit
You
more.
sold me. Put him in the Hall. You sold me already.
But it gets even better. 1994 Rookie of the Year. 1994 All-Rookie Team. 5-time NBA All-Star, 97 and 2000 and 2003. Like, most guys that are in the Hall have 7+ years as an All-Star, but I'm giving him a pass given the injury, how injury prone he was, microfracture surgery 2003, all those things, and he still played at a high level after he had surgery in 2003. And they thought that was going to be career ending, and he came back and played. And I did some research. He played at a high level for 14 years up until his last 2 years at Philly. So. I mean, for a dude his size who could pass and play with that skill set at the time was a big deal. And people forget, like I said last week, I argue with John about this all the time. Some cats are a victim of the era that they play in. Like I said, and the best example is Damon Lillard. He just happened to be in an era where he's going to get Steph Curry and, my man Westbrook. I mean, it's hard to, sometimes, just kind of like Karl Malone doing the Jordan era. Sometimes it's bad timing. But, look at Webber. He had to go against Tim Duncan and the Karl Malone era, and that
Tough.
was tough when he's playing power forward during that era against those guys. And
Precise.
and also too, I think Chris Webber's one of those dudes. I think we all can argue the NBA conspiracy theory. Sometimes there's guys that if you're not liked or you're not on a certain level, popularity wise, or in the NBA, you're just not going to get the love that other guys get, even if they're more liked or they got a better reputation. They might have slightly worse stats, but sometimes the NBA shows them love. So that's one thing I'm gonna say about Webber. I think some of the stuff he went through at Michigan kind of followed him to the NBA. I don't think he was just that guy that the NBA liked. And in Webber, I think he was a guy that really spoke his mind. I think that might not have suited him well during the era he was in the NBA. But back to the stats, he made an NBA All First Team in 2001, and this blew me away. He averaged 27 and 11 that year, which is crazy. He was fourth in NBA in MVP voting. I mean, you're just not an average NBA player if you have that type of stat. And then this stat was a big deal too. He finished in top 10. He finished in the top 10 in MVP voting in 5 straight seasons.
Mm.
And you have to equate the injuries had something to do with that not being more, given how many years he averaged 20 plus points and 10 rebounds, over a 14-year span. And then he had his bet in that particular year, 61-21 record, and they had a Pacific Division title. And then that was a year too where Donaghy said that game 7 against the Lakers were fixed. I mean, there's a whole lot of things you can go into that kind of stalled Chris Webber's legacy. Getting to one finals, getting a chip. So all these things are factors. NBA second team, 99, 02, and 03. NBA third team, 2000. This is big too. NBA rebounding leader, 13 per game in 99. That's huge, man. I mean, you can argue cats have 7, 8 year all-stars, but these are stats that a lot of people just don't have. And his number 4 was retired by the Kings. And just some of his, stats. He was National Freshman of the Year in 92. Consensus All-American his last year at Michigan in 93. He went to college for 2 years, member of the Fab Five, and he was a Wooden and Naismith finalist in 93. Chris Webber was a man. And then this is just to show how much he dominated from high school up. McDonald's All-American MVP 91, Mr. Basketball USA, not in his state, but Mr. Basketball USA in 91. Naismith Prep Player of the Year 91, Parade All-American 90-91, Mr. Basketball Michigan 91. Chris Webber was a man. And those are the stats that I have. And I got a few more nuggets, but I'll add those for when we're going back and forth. But after I saw these stats, and one stat I did read, don't misquote me, they said for all the big men who averaged 20 and 10 in their career, he's in, and I actually deleted the tab with the stat. He was, in company with Larry Bird and a couple other guys who made the Hall where he didn't get in. So there are some stats that really favor him getting in. And I know that these guys on the bubble, you can argue one way or the other. But I just think with Chris Webber's skill set, what he brought to the game, at that era in the NBA, he's definitely a surefire Hall of Famer.
That's solid. I learned some stuff about Chris Webber. I didn't know he was the number 1 pick.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Jay.
Well, first and foremost, man, Craig, great job. I think the one thing that stood out to me thinking about Chris Webber was just the Sacramento years, right? Like, I think they made the playoffs with Mitch Richmond 1 year, and then they traded Mitch Richmond for Chris Webber. And for him to take a team that's been, like, bad, like Sacramento when I was growing up was always horrible. Like, they were horrible every single year. And he made them like a perennial contender every year that they were there. And they, that 02, I'm a Laker fan, but they had the Lakers beat, man. They just, they couldn't close it out, man. So, yeah, I'm going to agree with him on that. Let me talk about my two. I'm going to throw one at the host, man. So I'm going to knock the host out real quick. I'm going to talk about Chris Bosh for about 45 seconds.
Man.
Chris Bosh was an 11-time All-Star in 14 seasons. He was a 2-time champion. He was a second-team All-NBA in 2007. He had a career scoring average of 19 points and 8 rebounds, and he had 6 seasons where he averaged over 20 points with 2 championships. I just feel like there have been people in the hall who've gotten in with much less. So I'm not gonna go on Chris. I just did that for my boy John. He gonna cut me later for that, but I'm gonna do that. But my man, who I'm gonna talk about, is a guy I grew up looking up to, was blessed enough to play against him one time. Best game of my life, because I played against him. Told him, like, yo, I grew up, you were my hero, bro. It was Penny Hardaway. So, let me tell y'all about Penny, man. People feel like, well, Penny was hurt. But my thing is, like, look, you look at Penny's first 5 years in the league, he averaged 19 points and 6 assists. He was a 4-time All-Star. He was a 2-time first-team All-NBA player. He won a gold medal in '96. And even though he was hurt, he still ended with career averages of 15 points, 5 assists, 1.5 steals, and 5 rebounds for his career. All right? Now, some people are going to be like, well, I don't think that's enough. So I'm going to come at it in a whole different way. I'm going to talk about some dudes that they put in the Hall of Fame that y'all going to be like, how are they in the Hall of Fame and not Penny? So I'm going to go through this list real quick. Number 1, Bill Bradley. Bill Bradley made the Hall of Fame. He averaged 12 points a game, 3 rebounds. He only made 1 All-Star team, and he won 2 championships as a role player with the Knicks. Arvydas Sabonis. Now, I know they let him in as a Euro, but he only averaged 12 points in the league, 7 rebounds, and was never an All-Star. Oh, it gets worse. Calvin Murphy. Are you kidding me? Calvin Murphy averaged 17 points, 4 rebounds, and only had 1 All-Star appearance. Earl the Pearl Monroe, he looked good. 18 points, 4 assists, 4-time All-Star. Now, these 2 players are questionable. I'm going to get the eyebrow, but we got to say it. Bill Walton won his ship. But if you look at Bill Walton, he only averaged 13 points, 10 rebounds in the league. He did get 1 MVP, and he won 1 ship. But he was hurt 6 or 7 years. He was hurt. Lastly, Drazen Petrovic. Now, rest in peace. If y'all know Drazen, he died at age 28.
He was the truth.
But look, though, he only played 4 seasons in the NBA. 4. He had 2 seasons with the Nets where he averaged 22 points over 2.5 seasons. When he played with Portland, he never played. So look, here's my argument to the Hall. If y'all gonna put them 6 dudes in, Penny Hardaway in his 5 years where he was arguably the best point guard in the league has better numbers than them guys. He took the Orlando Magic to the finals in '95. They were an expansion team in '89. So after in 5 seasons, they took them with Shaq from expansion to the finals. And we can argue, before I drop the mic, if Shaq didn't request to be traded after Jordan's 96, 97, 98 run, if Penny and Shaq are still together in a weak Eastern Conference, Indiana, New York, they may make those finals in a weak Eastern Conference. So that's my argument, man. Like I said, at the end of the day, Penny was hurt most of his career, but in his 5 years, when he was arguably the best point guard I feel in the world, his numbers match up much better than at least the 6 dudes I named who are currently in the Hall of Fame.
And let me just add on that, man. I always thought Penny was cold. You know what I mean? It wasn't just the fact that he was that guy that was fun to watch. It was effective too. And I do agree with you on I don't like to admit it, but I do agree with you on if Shaq would have stayed in Orlando, they probably would have got at least 1 or 2. for sure. Because, you know, they ran into Mike, beat Mike, but we know why they beat Mike. And then Akeem told them up. So
Akeem told them up.
he told them up. I watched that game actually too, the one you were telling me about. I watched that series. So yeah. Who did I say? I think I said Pops.
Am I next?
Yes, sir. Tear him up, Pops.
Let me help y'all out. Here again, Pops got to bring it down because y'all, hey, great arguments. Both Craig and, Craig, that was, man, that blew me away. And Jay, I'm going to poke some holes there later. But my guy, I got Tim, Mr. Crossover Hardaway. Now, the reason why I say he should be in the Hall, everybody know, run TMC. That was Tim, Mitch, and Chris Mullin. Everybody know. But he was the key to that engine. He was the man that made that thing go. His crossover, second to none. Second to none. Deadliest crossover ever. Deadliest. Here's the point. Tim Hardaway's career was 17.7. Assists was 8.2. Rebounds 3.3 a game. 5-time All-Star. 3 times All-NBA. Number was also retired in Miami. He was the first one in Miami where they won 61 games. They won 61 games that year. They lost to who? The Chicago Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, this is why Tim, Mr. Crossover, should be in. His teammate, and Jay just solidified my whole argument, his teammate, Mitch Richmond, averaged 20 points, 3.9 rebounds, 3.5 assists. 6-time All-Star, 3 times All-NBA. Chris Mullin, 18 points. Rebounds, 4.1. Assists, 3.5. 5-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA at Golden State. Now, here's another reason why he should be in. All-time point guards. He wasn't even on the list of all-time point guards. Top 10. We're going to exclude Magic and Oscar Robertson because they're in a league by themselves. John Stockton, who was number 3 on ESPN's list, John Stockton was 13 points, 10 assists. Steph Curry, who was number 4.
That's for a career? 13 and 10
that was John Stockton's career.
How many years did he play?
What, 17, 20? I don't know. But anyway.
That's tough.
Now,
Steph
Curry, who was still playing, and this number's going to go down. Steph was number 4 with 21 points, 4 rebounds, 6.9 assists. Oh, it gets better. Chris Paul. 18.
Whoa.
Chris Paul's stats is 18.7, 4 rebounds a game, and 9 assists.
Impact, man.
Impact. Wait. No. We're talking careers now.
No bias, John.
Stephen Nash. 14 points, 3 rebounds a game, 8 assists. Now, I'm going to go back to Mr. Crossover.
Better than AI, though.
2.7, 8 assists a game, and almost 4 rebounds a game.
How many points a game, Pop?
How many?
How many points a game?
17.7. 8 assists a game, and 3 rebounds a game. Tim Hardaway, Red TMC. Now, we all know why he's not in. Made some derogatory marks. I mean, he went off, voiced his opinion. Okay. But we're going to penalize him for that?
Yeah.
When some of the things that people have said, no, man, that's not even. Okay. Rest in peace. What did Kobe call that referee? Is Kobe going to the NBA? Is going to the Hall of Fame? Yes, he is.
He apologized, though.
Yeah, he apologized. Okay, I'll get deeper than that then. We all remember when Isaiah Thomas said, if Larry Bird was just a white person, he'd be a regular person, be a regular ball player. Is Isaiah Thomas in the NBA in the Hall of Fame?
You're reaching, bro.
Yes. I rest my case. I'm a he should be in. Y'all, look at them stats. He should be in. Y'all shaking y'all. He should be in.
All right, but before I let Brian go, if he gonna say something like that, and I think the biggest thing, Kobe said a name, he called him a name, and then he apologized. With Tim Hardaway, I looked it up. He said he hated those people. That's you can't come back from that, Pops. You cannot come back from that. You can't.
But also, too, the disparity of talent between Kobe and him. Kobe's getting
Come on,
better.
Craig.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Thanks,
If
Craig.
you're going to say something like that, you better be averaging 25 and 12.
Better be out there dropping 81 in the game or something, man.
But this is why he's not in the Hall of Fame. You mean to tell me the same stat that his two teammates got, he compared to, and he's not in?
Wait, let me. Can I go, John?
Yeah, it's your turn.
Pops, I'm gonna stay with Pops on this one. So, you said you gave Hardaway's career points, and then you brought up Curry. What's Curry's career right now, and he still has like 10 more years to go.
21, 4, and 6.
21 what? Okay. So are you saying that he should be in like over him, like if Curry ever gets in, or are you just comparing like that he has the same amount of
No, Steph is going to get in, period, on just the chips alone. He's going to get in. But what I'm saying, his two teammates that he run TMC.
Yeah, that's fair.
He was run. He was run. He should be in, period. And you see, did you hear them stats that Jay said?
No, I thought I heard wrong. I thought you said like Curry should not that obviously he still has more years to play, but I thought maybe you're going down the line that.
No,
players he was better than.
All the stats that Jay named, every last one.
I know, so I'll go. But to go back on all of them, I mean, obviously Craig, like Pop said, he knocked it out the park with all the stats. I actually took the approach Jared took of looking up other people that made it. That and I have two names that I'm gonna say here. One of them's obviously we knew. He's more in our younger for the younger generation knows about him than a couple or one old guy that goes back. But I'll agree with Jay. Your guy should be in. Pops, I think he should be in. Craig, obviously, I said he should be in. But the guy I got was Chauncey Big Shot Billups, right? So I didn't know this. I didn't know he was third overall pick. I think this is why his first couple of years, like not the first couple of years, but maybe like the first 4 or 5 years, kind of hurt him. And I didn't know why because I was looking at his stats, and he was still in double figures his first 2 years. He wasn't blowing, out the ballpark with the other numbers, but I think he became labeled as that journeyman. But his career stats he ended up with is 15 points, 5 assists, 2 rebounds. Obviously not the greatest, but the 2 rebounds you don't really expect your point guard to do that much. He's a 5-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA. He's a 04 Finals MVP, 2-time All-Defensive Team, and he had a 17-year career. And from what I saw, from looking at the stats, there was only 3 years out of those 17 years where he wasn't in double digits. Obviously, some of the double digits was like 10 and 11, but I feel like in the league to be able to do that for 17 years without, and I think 3 years, I think one of them he only played like 12 games. The other year he played like 14, 15 games. So those are his stats right there. Who said Chris Mullin earlier? Who compared Chris Mullin? Did you say that, Jay? Or Pops? Yeah. So I won't say his stats because I was going to use him as comparing. There's another guy, Gus Johnson. I saw his stats, but I don't have it written down. But he had, he was either there or a little bit above him, and he's in the Hall of Fame. One of the guys I have him compared to is T-Mac. I'm not saying T-Mac shouldn't be in. I love T-Mac. He was one of my favorite players. I had his shoes growing up. Obviously, he was a better scorer. We know that. T-Mac was 19, 5 and 4. He was a 7-time All-Star, only 2 more than Chauncey. He was a 7-time All-NBA, obviously better than Chauncey. He was a 2-time scoring champ. That's what he did. And he was 2000, 2001 most improved. But obviously, what Chauncey gets on is obviously the championship, the Finals MVP. Obviously, T-Mac was hurt here and there, so I understand, but he made the Hall. So I think there's a case there. I think some of the stats eliminate each other, I feel like. And then the second one I got is Joe Dumars, who obviously was the guy that brought him in, former Pistons guy as well. Joe was his career 16, 2-4, which is just one more point than Chauncey averaged. He was a 6-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA. He was an 85-86 All-Rookie team, which is legit. 2-time champ, Finals MVP, and a 5-time All-Defensive team. So I think with that, with just those two guys that I compared him to, and obviously I had Chris Mullin on there and Gus Johnson. I feel like his stats speaking up for himself, but like we've talked about, people get labeled a certain way. So for him to be that journeyman, skipping from team to team and then finally coming to Detroit and, him just getting a nickname like that, Big Shot Billups, is because obviously he was hitting big ones, right? I don't think he's really talked about it a lot in the discussion of like, who you want to take the last shot with like Kobe and them. I don't think, he necessarily has to be there, but I feel like if you have a nickname like that, he's proven that he's willing to do it. And I think he wasn't as flashy too. So I feel like, when you see him, he was a slow point guard. Not that he walked the ball up every time, but he was crafty in what he did. You know what I mean? But I feel like if he would have just had maybe 2 or 3 years in early on in his career where he showed what he showed later on in his career, I think he would for sure be a no ballot Hall of Fame. So I was actually very surprised that he wasn't. I thought he was in for whatever reason, and I went like how Jared did. I went along seeing what other guys were averaging, and Jared brought up all the old guys too, and I just didn't even bother with them because I don't really see them play. But some of the few guys here I've seen film on, and obviously grew up watching up. So that's what I think it should be in. Just let alone with him being able to hang with the stats. Obviously, they're not mind blowing, but I feel like some of his stats cancel out some of the other stuff that people couldn't do. So that's my take on Chauncey Billups.
All right. Anyone want to add to that, or I can go ahead and go?
Yeah, I'll add a real quick point.
All right, go ahead.
I think the one thing, like some of these guys we talk about reputation is on their side or not. That's the one thing Billups has going for him. There's 2 things: his reputation and his leadership ability.
Yeah.
Those things are really gonna, if he was on the bubble, that would tip the scales and favor him going in.
And he's one of the everybody wants him to be the GM too, so it's like not like he doesn't know what he's doing, so.
Go ahead, Jay.
No, I mean, I love all my guys. I feel like the only difference to me is I feel like if you talk about Chauncey, Brian, you gave 2 really, really, really good examples. DJ, Dennis Johnson, and Joe Dumars. Those 2 players impacted winning, and they were the best role players on their teams, and they got rewarded for it. And I feel like if you're going to reward those 2 guys, I feel like you got to put Chauncey in that group. Though I feel like he could have been the best player, he definitely was one of the most important. So and he won a championship. I feel like with Chris Webber, I feel like with Chris Webber, at the same time, same thing. He was the best player on his team. He changed the culture. Tim Hardaway, I feel Pops, but it's hard too because was he the best player out of those 3? Mitch Richmond was a stretch to me too because Mitch Richmond was nice, but Chris Mullin, yeah. Mitch, I feel like if you're gonna put Mitch in, you gotta put Tim in. However, the comment, you can't walk back that comment he made. But yeah, man, I think all of them were on point, man. But like I said, the Joe Dumars, man, and DJ BG, that was spot on, bro. That was spot on.
All right, so
And also, too, those 2 point guards benefited from being on some of the greatest teams in that era as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got Bird, Pierce, McHale. You playing with Isaiah. That was a good era on the East.
all right, before I get into it, I kind of just want to touch a little bit on naming players of in the top point guards all time or whatever. I only took offense to Chris Paul. Chris Paul is I'm younger than you guys, but I haven't seen. He's probably one of the best court generals I've seen in my era of watching point guards. I didn't really see Magic. I didn't see Stockton. I only seen games, but just to see Chris Paul at what he's doing limitedly, like his athleticism's gone. He's always hurt, but he's still able to win games, man. Like he's a winner. He is a certified winner. Championships, I don't know. But when it comes to a point guard and getting the job done and getting your team relevant, he's a winner. No one thought he was going to go to OKC, and they're actually doing better. They're actually doing better than when Russell Westbrook was there and Paul George was there. I don't know how to pronounce his wingman's name. What's the dude's name? Alexander.
Gildress Alexander.
Yeah, like that's his wing. Russell Westbrook had Paul George. Like you can argue that Chris Paul has less talent around. You can argue it, but they're still prospering. But that's my only point.
Hey, John, was Chris Paul really trying to see Rondo though?
Nah, he didn't want that. He
Don't want that.
he didn't.
Not back then. That's for sure.
He didn't want that. He didn't want that. That's my dude, though. I respect Chris. All right, so I'm gonna get into mine, man. For me, we talked about it in our group chat. I really wanted to take Richard Hamilton. I really wanted to take him, but I kind of wanted to take someone too that I can make an argument about. Someone that's not as flashy. So I chose Ben Wallace. Now, he's the definition of a blue-collar player. Like them guys that impact winning, a glue guy, but he does nothing to the premier eye besides blocking shots. So I think it'd take a real, like, a coach to kind of respect them, or guys that, or women that really watch hoop and know hoop, right? So listen to this, man. So I kind of took the J approach, but only chose one player, though. I'm comparing his stats before we get all wild. I'm comparing his stats and accomplishments, mainly accomplishments, to Mutombo, right? Mutombo, come on, man. Hold on. Hold on, man.
You lost the entire podcast.
Hold on. But look. Just listen. Now, longevity. When it comes to defense, blocking shot, we all know the finger point. Mutombo is that, right? Longevity. He was in the league. How long does he? I didn't look to see how long he was in. But he played a long time in the league, right? Now, listen to this. Accomplishments. All defensive team, Mutombo has 4. All defensive team, he has 4. Ben Wallace, he has 5 all defensive teams, right? Next, defensive player of the year, they both have 4. But you can quote me if I'm wrong, but I did some pretty thorough research. Ben Wallace is the only player to win 2 times in a row, multiple times. So in 01 through 03, defensive player of the year. 04 through 06, defensive player of the year. He has 1 title. Mutombo has 0. 2-time rebound champ. But I guess the biggest thing you can say is he didn't do it. Like he wasn't at his peak for long. It was about 4. It was about 5. It was about 5 or 6. About 5 or 6 years, I think his prime was going, right? And Mutombo, longevity. But the accomplishments are there. I think the accomplishments speak for itself. And he did all this at 6'9", man. This dude was 6'9". 6'9". The most most rebounds he averaged was 15. It was 15.4. I was gonna round up and say 16, but y'all be getting mad at me when I do that. So I'm gonna say for career, the most he averaged in the season rebound wise was 15. But my biggest case is I think we need to. What is it? Oh, I thought you were showing me something. The biggest thing, my biggest point is we need more blue collar guys in there, man. We need more guys that don't really get the eye, like the flashy and stuff like that. But when it comes to just being a dog, you got to get my man in there. Got to. You could say he had his best career is about 5 or 6 years, but his accomplishments are up there with impact's not there. So I'm not being reckless. I'm not saying he had a better career. I'm just saying the accomplishments was there with him. That's my thing.
Jared's not having it.
Yeah, he not. It's cool. It's cool.
Jared's not
You can't really argue about the accomplishments though, man. They're there.
No, here's my thing. I think everything you're saying is spot on. The only thing that hurt Ben Wallace was the beginning of his career and the end.
Yeah, for sure.
He came in with the Wizards. He bounced around, and then after Detroit, he went to Cleveland, and he just, if you focus on those, like you said, those 3 to 4 years, no doubt. It was just hard that the totality of it wasn't enough. It's debatable though. It's debatable, but it's hard. I feel like he's gonna get last on the list before you got to put Big Shot in, our boy Rip Hamilton.
That's fair.
And then you look at him like, all right, we got to put Bennett. But
all right, and just to add to that, Jay, me personally, I think he kind of go before Rip a little bit, just a little bit. I don't think you can say that about any one of their players. I don't think they win without him, man. And to your point about the longevity, the beginning of his career and end the career, you could say the same argument for Penny. Say the same argument. But Ben Wallace, in that short amount of time that he was hooping, he accomplished a little more than Penny.
I think in terms of his importance, yeah, I feel like individually, I still feel like Penny had more of an impact because Penny was more important for his team. Ben Wallace was a defensive anchor, but Penny was like, if you
Penny,
look,
he was the guy. He was the guy. Penny was the guy, but I'm saying like the anchor, like he has 4 Defensive Player of the Years. 4.
One person that we're not mentioning that I gotta mention later though, but I'll mention is Rasheed Wallace played a huge part of that too. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel
that
like
segues into the next topic.
Right. I feel like Rasheed. I feel what you're saying about Ben, but Ben really wasn't doing all that until they picked up Rasheed mid-season. They picked up Rasheed 04 mid-season. Their whole trajectory changed after they got Rasheed. I love Ben.
She was still tearing the Lakers up Game 7 too with the bad back. Couldn't even run.
Penny carried Orlando after Shaq left by himself. Saying.
That's true. I mean, all right. Yeah. hey, we'll agree to disagree. We'll agree to disagree.
Right. Hey, let me make my point though for my boy Hardaway, because y'all.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I'm gonna tell you what, because when Jay gave that other list of some of the guys that's in, man, this is just flat out wrong. Tim Hardaway, 15,373 points, rebounds 2,855, assists 7,095. And man, y'all want to tell me about Bob Cousy? And Bob Cousy is in the Hall. But now, understand that the Hall of Fame is also about your career in college. Come on, man. He was the WAC Player of the Year, NBA All-Rookie First Team. No, man, he should be in. When you talk about history, we all know about Run TMC. He was the run. It don't make it, man. No. And say his crossover is deadly right now. Right now. It was on the basketball game. It was even on the Nintendo game. Oh no, stop! Nah, man, come on. He should be in. I mean, that list Jay had. I mean, I knew Earl the Pro. I mean, if Earl the Pro in, stop.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. I'm a kind of just bring up each person that you guys brought up, and I'm gonna say if I agree or disagree with it. All right. I'll start with you, Craig. With you, Chris Webber. I think he gets the nod. He should get the nod. Just based on because Hall of Fame actually does college career, right, and NBA career. So I think,
International.
yeah, that too. But I think just on that, plus college and his NBA career, he should get the nod. BG, Chauncey Billups, if anyone on the Pistons gets it, I think Chauncey should. And that was actually a really good one, and I think is really underrated too. People forget about Chauncey. Chauncey was a problem. He was a problem
for sure.
problem in Denver too.
Even with Denver.
Yeah, he was a problem.
Was
For sure.
a problem.
Pops, Timmy not getting Tim's not getting there, bro. And the comments play a big part of it. I don't think he was like that much of a like that guy where you could kind of just look past it. You know what I mean? Still one of my favorite crossovers. Everybody knows the Timmy. Like, we teach all these kids the Tim Hardaway. Jay, Penny, just based on what you said about my argument, he not getting in either. Because longevity, that's not me being petty. It's just I don't think he gets it. Because that was my biggest worry too, was how long Ben Wallace was on top of his game. And yeah. And my point on Ben Wallace, I just really chose him because I wanted someone that wasn't amazing from the naked eye, like offensively. I kind of wanted that blue collar worker. You know what I mean? Just from coaching, it made me appreciate those type of kids more. Energy, the winning plays. So as a coach, that helped me kind of respect the blue collar workers. All right. Craig, go ahead and let us know what you thought about everybody's player and whatnot.
Let's start with Penny. Kind of like what I said earlier. I'm sorry, Tim Hardaway. Like what I said earlier, he kind of, he's like the Craig. He kind of did what Craig Hodges did. You know what I mean? Shot himself in the foot. It's like, especially during the David Stern era. If you notice, all the big stars had a good relationship with him because he was able to market the players in the league. So if you weren't on his side, even now, he's not going to get in. I think his stats and his longevity, he should get in, but I just think he blackballed himself. Penny's on the bubble. I'm one of those people where I think Penny should get in based on,
talent
and what he brought to the game. Not a lot of people besides Magic at the time was, a 6'9" point guard. You know what I mean? So I factor those things in because there are a lot of things that don't show up on the stat sheet that I think you should give players credit for. I think he should get in, but I don't think he's going to get in.
Yeah.
And Brian Chauncey, I think he's definitely going to get in, based on his reputation, like I said, his leadership and his longevity, So I definitely think Chauncey's going to get in. It might be a while, but I definitely think he's getting in. Ben is a long shot because, there's too many cats on his own team that got to get in before him.
True.
Like me and you talked about that before. We talked about, Rasheed. We talked about Stackhouse. There's a lot of other cats that we can argue could get in before Ben. So I think Ben is a long shot to get in, and also too, he's just not that guy. He just doesn't fit that NBA mold of guys who make the.
That's true.
The Hall. You know what I mean? As political as it sounds, it's really political. Ben is just not that guy that's gonna get in. So that's my take on it.
Go ahead, BG.
I agree with Craig. I think Craig did the best today of really hitting us with the stats. And I mean, I knew Chris Webber. I knew what he brought to the game. I knew what he could do. But I mean, like John said earlier, some of the stuff he said was just I didn't even know it was even near of his talent level. So I'll give him Chris Webber. I'll give Jay. Jay convinced me. I'll give him Jay. I'll give him Penny Hardaway because of what's his name, Pekovic, right? I think that was a really solid point. For obviously he did his thing overseas, which I mean I don't know if you guys have seen that 30 for 30 about him and Vlade. That sold me. That was legit. But I mean, if you give a guy like that into the Hall, for Penny, just let alone with his injuries. You know, give him the benefit of the doubt. Pops, I'm gonna back you up on this, man. You know, I got you on this one. I think the stats alone.
Barely.
You know, you could, yeah, barely. You could you could throw him in there. But then it goes, and then for John, like Craig said it best. I mean, you can't put Ben Wallace over, Chauncey and Rip, in my opinion. I agree with what John says, though. Like, as a basketball person, as a basketball coach, you want guys like that. So, you have kids on your team that want to be that guy and not just always want to be the scorer. But I think Ben Wallace is happy knowing that real hoopers and real basketball people know what he meant to the game. And I think that can be said for everybody here. Like, yeah, would it be cool to be getting the Hall of Fame? Absolutely. But I think, especially I think like Ben Wallace, for sure, out of all the people we talked about, he knows, like, man, what I did in the game, like, people respected me. You know what I mean? Like, for him to play against Shaq like he did, obviously Shaq did his thing, but, for him to do what he did and at his size, being undrafted, playing with that chip on his shoulder, he already beat it. He already made the Hall of Fame in his eyes, getting all those awards and those accomplishments. So I'll agree with everybody. It's just, it would just be really tough for Ben to make it, out of a lot of the other people. So
go ahead, Wes.
That me? All right.
Man. I obviously feel like, in terms of Chris Webber, yeah, man, like, he's a no-brainer. I mean, one thing that we touched on a little bit, obviously, was, he had a lot of issues with the booster from Michigan at the time. And I feel like that really has hurt his chances of getting into the Hall of Fame based on what happened with Michigan and their championships getting vacated. And I think that's kind of, to me, the biggest reason why they haven't pushed him through yet. I just feel like he's gonna fall into one of those classes that maybe are one of the weaker classes that year, where it's like, all right, we could put him in. A class like this class with Kobe, Tim, it just it's too difficult. But the classes that are a little weaker, Chris Webber is a shoe man with the whole DJ and Joe Dumars, man. That was spot on. So I feel like same thing with Chauncey. I feel like if it's the right draft, if it's the right Hall of Fame class, I feel like we can get Chauncey in there, nominate him, and maybe he can get in there with votes. I think Tim Hardaway was Hall of Fame talent. I just think it just always came to, like, it was always like the wrong thing at the wrong time. Like, when he was with Golden State and they were about to get going, they traded him. You know what I'm saying? They traded him. And he went to Miami, and he had those good years with Zoe, but then they traded him again. So it seemed like every time he was trying to get some momentum to sustain that Hall of Fame career, which I think you have to have you have to have like 4 to 5 years of, like, sustained greatness, I believe. And Tim never really got the opportunity to do that. Ben Wallace, if I'm on the panel and it's an HCE panel,
You love guys like that, man. Come on.
I'm putting them in. I just know it's so hard because, again, it goes to career. If you look at Dennis Rodman, Dennis Rodman was great, but he's not much different. Obviously, he could guard multiple positions. Ben Wallace couldn't do that. But in terms of defensive impact and rebounding, Ben's right there. But just Dennis was able to do that from a longer stretch of time with 2 franchises. And that's all it was with Ben. I feel like if Flip Saunders and them, if Larry Brown stayed in Detroit and that legacy was a little bit longer, I feel like Ben gets a different look, man. But they just cut their time so short. It was only like a 2 or 3 year span, 04, 05, really. Well, no, I'm saying 05 in terms of when Larry Brown was there.
Oh, okay.
They had the same squad with Flip Saunders, but they weren't the same team.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean, man.
He was the same player, though, is what I was getting at.
Yeah, same player, just different schemes. I think that affected them too, man. But all these are debatable. But I will put them all in. I mean, Tim just goes with the comment. That killed Tim.
That's
yeah.
You can't recover from that, Pops.
Is it me now?
Yeah, go ahead. 2 minutes,
All
OG.
right. Yeah, I'm going to close and sort it out. Ben Ben is not making it. Ben's not making it. He's just not making it.
He making it for Tim, though.
No, hold on. on that, we forget, but on that team, Ben's not making it. You had Chauncey, Rip, like Jay said, when they got the trade for Rasheed, and then you forget the other nugget they had.
Oh, you guys are naming better players. Yes, you're naming better offensive players. He has the most accomplishments. He has the most individual accomplishments.
Well, okay, you're right. Okay, but I'm gonna tell you why he's not getting in.
Oh,
I'm gonna tell you
more accomplishments.
Hold on. Now I'm gonna tell you why
he only got all-stars over him.
Hold on. I'm gonna tell you why he's not going to get in. You really know why Ben Wallace is really not going to get in the Hall? He was involved in one of the biggest tragedies in the NBA. That fight at the Palace.
You can't bring that up and then say Tim got.
I'm telling you, this is why he's not getting in.
Okay.
This is why
That's fair.
Like I gave the argument for Tim Hardaway. Yeah, everything is true to it, but those comments in the era of 2007, it's not flying. I understand that it's not flying. They're holding that against him. With Penny Hardaway. Jay gives a great point with Penny. Great point. Injury prone. That once everything everything fell off. The one guy that might have a shot would be Chauncey Billups, because he's an upstanding guy in the NBA.
That's true.
He's the clean-cut guy in the NBA, went through the turmoil, all that stuff. Craig, the argument that he gave for Chris Webber, they should put him in right now. Right now. That's that. First of all, he had one of the greatest dunks ever in the NBA on Charles Barkley, ever. But still, the one thing that's going to, they hold grudges, man. We know this. They hold grudges. And they're going to hold against him what happened in Michigan with the Fab Five. And that's just wrong. That's not, they're holding that grudge. The school is holding that grudge on him. That's just flat out.
I don't know how many timeouts you got, though, Pops. That's it.
Here again, but still, there go another one.
Hey, 1 minute, Pops, 1 minute.
But the Fab Five, man, the Michigan, that thing about all that controversy, he won't come clean and he won't tell it, man, they hold that against him. They hold it up. That argument Craig did, C. Webb should have Craig do his speech. He should have him do his speech, man. He does deep. That was, but Chauncey will get in for character.
All right. My bad, man. I just feel like Ben should got in. You brought up a good point, though. I didn't forget about it. I was just trying to keep that on the hush. I remember the thing with Ron Artest.
Keto, I pulled up Ben's stats, and I had no idea he had some of the stats he has.
Me either.
But that's the thing about the NBA. If you're not that marketable player, you'll never know unless you dig, like we're doing,
Yeah, bro. And to wrap it up, I'm going to throw one more jab at Jared, because that's my guy. You know what I mean? So if Penny's getting in there, should Brandon Roy get in there then?
No.
Why?
Two different levels. Penny was arguably the best time. Penny's team was a team that beat Michael Jordan in the second round. Nobody else has done that in the 90s but Orlando. Penny was arguably the most popular player at that time. Little Penny.
They marketed him well.
Brandon Roy was good, but was he?
Can I
tear Kobe up, Brian? He's tear Kobe up.
I know. I love Brandon Roy. He was tearing Kobe up all the time. Let me. This might be a debate for another day, but I'm gonna just throw this out there. Everybody's brought up Penny and how great he was, and never throw Shaq in there. Exactly. Every time we talk about Cole, he has Shaq. So I'm just gonna leave that right there.
Can I respond to that before we go?
Go ahead.
And when he beat the Bulls, Jay, before you go, when he beat the Bulls, what was wrong with Scotty?
What was wrong with him?
He didn't have like a never mind. We good.
I mean,
Hey,
no.
Cut
I feel
that.
you, but Scotty's Pippen back was hurt in '98 when they beat Utah too. But we're not. I mean, what does that mean? He couldn't even rub it down the court against Utah, but they won. My point is, I see what y'all saying, but Penny Hardaway, even when Shaq left, that team had nobody, and he got that team to the playoffs for 2 years, and
In the East.
Their whole team.
In the East,
Yeah,
Kobe had to stay in the West with Smush Parker, Chris
All right,
Smith.
let me reel it in. Let me reel it in.
can I make one quick point though?
Yeah, hurry up.
You know, so I'm looking at Penny's stat. One stat I do like that I just pulled up. Man, his stats in the playoffs jump 5 points a game. So, dude, 20 points and 6.2 assists per game.
For 2 years.
5
But
2 years.
he does that. He does that on his
Kidding
own.
me?
What are you talking about?
Like he like if you don't have somebody like Shaq, is this the both years he was in the playoffs even
Man,
without Shaq?
Orlando's in the playoffs from '94 to 2000, with the exception of '98. You know, then he was in there with Phoenix and New York. But 1 year with Orlando, he averaged 31 points a game. I mean,
It's just like I don't get how you can't take like Penny was doing this, but he didn't have Shaq. But it's every time Cole
No.
he had Shaq. Like
I
Cole was out there putting numbers up too.
I brought up Shaq earlier. I said there's no way that they win that without Shaq.
Yeah, but it's never a debate though. It's never like it's always like Penny, and then it feels like it's Shaq's right here. Every time we talk about Kobe in those 3 years, the first 3 chips, it's like Shaq, and then it's like Kobe. Like I feel like it should
All
be.
right. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up, man.
All right.
I saw where this is going. So I want to clarify something for myself. Penny's great. You know what I mean? So don't quote me on everything I'm saying. We got to poke holes in each other's statements to make it look good, man. But Penny's great. So
Hall of Fame.
huh?
you know what I just thought about? He getting there. Hey, no, let me tell you something. One little nugget, Jay. If he has a good coaching career on the college level, that's gonna tip the scales for sure. He's in.
Bro, he was out there getting tore up this year.
I mean, man,
I love Penny. I was just messing.
Hey, come on, man. You're supposed to give the coach some mercy, man.
But all right, fellas. Great take, Greg. I thought it got everybody juice flowing. We didn't think it was gonna be as long as it did, so that's always good. But for those of you that are watching, if you didn't check out our first episode, you can check it out on HomeCourtEdge TV. We have a Agree to Disagree folder, so go ahead and click episode 1 if you like this one. Also, if you watched this one and you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the like button, and in the comments, put who you think out of all 5 takes, who you think should be in Hall of Fame, or who shouldn't be in there. Just share any thoughts you want in the comments, and we'd love to talk with you guys and give feedback. But other than that, this is Agree to Disagree. My boy Jay Lloyd, OG Pops, BG, Craig, and I'm John. Until next time, we out.